Hey, this is Billy Rowe. I'm the owner of the guitar brand Rock N Roll Relics. I'm also one of the guitar players in the band Buckcherry and Jetboy. Growing up as a kid in the 70s, music to me was, in the 70s music was most innovative, I feel, from just rock and roll to the punk to pop to the disco, all the categories, you know. So I got into it, you know, in the early years of, you know, 70s rock and roll. I had a good friend who's a couple years older than me, who I used to go to shows with, and who picked up guitar and turned me onto guitar, basically. That's where it all began for me. It's probably I guess it would have been like mid going into the late 70s. Then I got turned on to the whole music thing, and I just became an instant fan of all of it. Big Kiss fan, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, and then into the whole punk movement of the Clash and Generation X. And guitar was just one of the things that I gravitated to. I think a lot of kids from my generation, the bands of those days, guitar, well, anything, guitar, bass, and drums, and all that, it influenced a lot. Well, the first music for me, I was just doing covers with a friend of mine who I went to school with. A few of us, we used to just get together and we used to play cover songs from, you know, AC/DC to, you know, Aerosmith to Iron Maiden to Def Leppard, to the music that was kind of at the moment new. Now it's all classic, and we just sit in my buddy's house, at his parents' house. We would just, you know, he was a drummer, we had another friend who was a bass player, another guitar player, me, we had no singer, and we just played everything just musically, and it was the beginning of it all for me.
Thank you. You guys are fucking excellent. Don't forget, Jetboy is here to fucking stay. We'll see you soon. Oh, rock and roll!
First serious band was Jetboy. You know, soon after that, I was in high school, and I had met the other guitar player, Fernie, at a club. We became good friends. We had the same vision of what we wanted to do in a band. We just wanted to start a band. This would have been 1982, 83. So you had the whole MTV movement was just blowing up.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
Which was a wide range of everything from Billy Idol to, you know, whatever, Bananarama to Duran Duran to Prince to The Clash to Aerosmith, to Kiss, and Cheap Trick, all that stuff. Everything was just nonstop. So the early days, Jetboy was very, you know, we formed Jetboy, we had it complete by 84, and we started playing clubs. So for me, it all happened really quickly. I was right out, the first show we did, I was like, I just graduated high school, so I was 18. We started playing clubs. I remember we used to have to play the club, and it was 21 and over, and I would have to leave after we played. So that's how early on that was for me. And it was a movement that happened, you know, in San Francisco. There was just the whole underground movement of some of these bands like Hanoi Rocks and Lords of the New Church, and there was a band from Baltimore called Kicks. Of course, we were the early influences of Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and Kiss and all that. It was just what spawned Jetboy. And so early on, I was just right in it. Within 2 years, we had a record deal. You know, I was 20. Moved to LA, and we started doing shows down here, and it was the music mecca. Yeah. You know, it was just the place to be. And once we got signed and everything was down there, we decided, well, let's just move. And that's what we did. And, you know, we signed a record deal, and we recorded and started touring, and that's where it all started. I mean, I was 21 when we did our first record, and so it all happened pretty quickly. And the whole movement of our time was Jetboy, Poison, LA Guns, Guns N' Roses, Faster Pussycat. That movement of the 80s was, we were like the bands that were all kids, you know, in our early 20s, playing clubs together, and that's where it all started. And now some of those bands are like iconic. back then you're just like, you're in the moment. I'm young, we're all, you know, in our 20s, and we're just, you know, just pretty much the early of being an adult, I guess, but we were really just kids. You know, you think you're an adult then, you think you know it all. But it was all in the moment, you know, it was a lot of fun. It really was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. As cliche as that is, that really was what was going on. Through the years, I was always into kind of tinkering with stuff, built a couple just tellies and just for the fun of it. Even the early Jetboy days, I built and spray painted one of my Strats pink. I did like the mirror pickguard. I kind of did my own thing to it. Guitars that you probably shouldn't have converted from a P90 to a humbucker, but you did, and it's just, now that's look what we have. That's what created all this boutique stuff, really. After the whole Jetboy thing, we got dropped and life changed. Moved back, and then, you know, a few years after that, I started to work for Chris Isaac as a guitar tech. And then right at that point is when kind of this internet thing started happening, and eBay and all this stuff. So I started just getting into more of the vintage guitars, you know, and just kind of refurbished a couple of them. Then I kind of built a couple tellies for fun, just for myself. And then I started seeing this relic thing, this aging, building guitars and aging. And I'm like, oh, that looks kind of fun. So I did a couple for myself, selling them through eBay and have a website. And I came up with Rock N Roll Relics. And it all just started to just guide itself, really, you know. And then really when we got into the set neck stuff, went in that direction, and a lot of people were doing the bolt-on stuff. There was a lot of brands that are still big to this day, got pretty big doing it. I was always more of a set neck guy, and I just went another direction. I kind of was one of the first ones to kind of step in that direction and found a niche for it, which led me to my own thing, with my own, you know, my Starfighter and the Revenge model, which is my own thing, which has now become the flagship of the brand. Well, this is a Starfighter Junior, so it's a single pickup wraparound bridge, which is, I'm a real less is more type guitar player.
Yeah.
So I was never a neck pickup guy, really, so this is...
It doesn't really have a place in rock and roll, does it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't to a degree, but for the most of the meat is in the bridge, right?
Yeah.
I like the whole wraparound thing, but this guitar, the Starfire model, was inspired by one of my guitar heroes, would be Malcolm Young.
All right.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
And just to me, the key, most incredible rhythm player, next to someone like Keith Richards, you know.
Yeah,
I really would put Malcolm Young. Those guys are just the ultimate. That was kind of it's a chambered body. It's just basically a car top model. You know, we do the single ply binding. We could do the multi-ply binding. We got the custom version, but this is basically just a no frills rock and roll guitar. I'm a big fan of the Filtertron thing, which also goes back to Malcolm Young for me. It's like, to me, that's a big key of that sound, and creates the cleaner, the bigger when it comes to the tone. So this is really the inspiration for me on this model. And we do the 2 pickup version too, so you could do it in humbuckers. You could do it a single humbucker, single Filtertron, or a P90, and I do the same with the 2 pickup. And it would be the 2 pickup one would be just a 2 volume master tone and a toggle. Mm-hmm. So again, pretty basic, yeah. And this one's got like the ratio tuners, which we love. These tuners are great. This is that Rezo Max, which is also by Graphtec. These are both Graphtec brands. Pretty simple. CTS pots, 500K, .022 cap. Yeah, set neck. The body is chambered, so we got a little bit of a chambering here. Mm-hmm. So it's really, a lot of it is for weight relief. Yeah. You know, the consistent mahogany and the weight you want it. So that's this one here, Starfighter, which is also, the name is actually inspired by the nephew who took Malcolm Young's place in AC/DC. Stevie Young was in a band called the Starfighters.
So you
in the 80s, and they were, and it was, I was a fan of the band, and it just kind of fit.
Is this what you would call your flagship model at the moment, or?
I would like to say so, yeah. You know, the whole idea was to just kind of move into our own direction, you know, starting with this one, which is, you know, it's got its throwback of classic style, but it's got its own at the same time. It's, you know, but this one definitely, you know. Again, this is like super classic looking, but you want to say it looks like A, B, or C, but it's still its own thing when you put them up next to each other.
How hard is that to come out with something that looks and feels traditional, and yet it's its own thing?
Yeah, it's very hard. Yeah, this friend of mine in UK is a designer, all kinds of stuff. And he's a big rock fan. He was working on something.
Yeah.
And we talked, and I said, let's check it out. I liked it, and a couple little tweaks we went back and forth on. I'm like, try this, and then that's the time that I started working on like doing a new headstock, the same thing, and you know, incorporate kind of like a lightning bolt, like the logo. Yeah. And the Revenge was born, and this is becoming like our best seller right now, which is awesome. Yeah. This is a set neck. A lot of the you know, the old one, like the Firebird styles were like a neck through. But these are just basically a set neck, so. And it's the same thing, you know, straightforward, classic style, just do volume, two-tone, and a toggle. We could do humbuckers, we do triple in this one, or do a wraparound in this one as well. P90s in it, humbuckers, or Filtertrons.
Yeah. What's most popular?
It seems like the humbuckers are the most popular for the most part for this model, you know.
Guitarist.
But it could go both ways, you know. I mean, we do, and then we got the junior version. This is like kind of my main thing, but here I'll show this kind of the paint job, wacky stuff that we do to here, the 70s style. But this is like the junior version of that, and we do the same with either a humbucker or P90 or a Filtertron. Yeah. So. But this is the same thing, but just the junior version. Yeah.
This is really catching on, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like it, right?
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, that's what I would see in the 70s, you know. My best friend's dad had one, you know. Had the old bubble port windows in the back. They called them the cozy cars.
Yeah, they were cozy.
Yeah, exactly.
You had the right company.
They got real cozy, exactly. They sure did get cozy. I think that's what they were made for. I started Rock N Roll Relics in San Francisco, which is where I'm from, and always wanted to move back just due to like, you can find a shop down here, just more of the music. Again, it's just, there's a lot more people I could find to like work on guitars and stuff and know how to build and stuff like that, what I do. So once I got down here, and soon after that, I got into this new shop, COVID hit. And I got a call from Stevie in Buckcherry that they need another guitar player, and it's just gonna be kind of some spotty shows because of the whole lockdown. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna say yes and I'm not gonna say no, because I had a business. I just moved to LA, you know, and I had, you know, 2 employees at that point. So, but everything worked out. I just took it, you know, one thing at a time. And here we are. I've probably done, you know, probably over 400 shows with them and 3 records, and everything's grown since then. It actually elevated the brand, you know, so it's been a great thing. This is kind of what I'm playing right now, is the step top, but the single pickup wraparound bridge. The other one's just the standard Junior, it's just the flat top. You know, they all have all of them have a bit of a contour in the arm, and then the belly cut.
Do you have different levels of aging, or is everything?
Yeah, we have different levels. I mean, it's basically we go light, medium, and heavy, and then some people want like extra heavy. So that's just beat to hell. Yeah. Which is kind of what I like.
And this will be medium?
I would call this medium. This would be more medium. Heavy can really get like a lot of wood showing. Yeah. You know, and you really raw up the neck. You know, like the back wear and all that. Staying on the Revenge, this is one that we do. I don't know, just kind of like, I don't know how we got into the maple neck, but this is a maple neck fingerboard version. Yeah. Which I'm more of a rosewood guy or an ebony, but this is pretty cool. This thing too, kind of like a mashup vibe. Yeah. You know, with the maple neck. So I've always done stingers. I've always been a fan of the stingers on the back of the headstock. Yeah. So that's become kind of a traditional thing for us. A little extra work on everything you do, but it's, you know,
so
definitely adds a little
own impression, your signature.
It's kind of our little fucking, just a bling for us, you know, a little extra. The whole era of the whole 80s thing of Jetboy, it's like a new generation. I see these kids, you know, who are our age when we were doing it into it. I mean, they're dressing like it, they're in bands like it, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-blowing to see it, like going, well, I guess that's how it was for us. You know, but when you were the one who were part of that movement, and now you see this generation, like a few generations later, wanting to basically mimic it and copy it and be it, but they put a twist to it and take it to another level too. That's like how all the music was for me. You know, a lot of these bands that I grew up with, they were just, Aerosmith was America's Rolling Stones really, but they kind of bumped it up a notch.
Yeah.
A little more gain in the amp, a little more aggressive in ways, you know, and that's, but it was the same, you know, genesis of rock and roll, you know. 20 years ago, there was a huge movement out of Sweden of rock and roll bands like the Helicopters and Backyard Babies, and, you know, there's still that movement, again, you know, even happening in the States and other countries as well. So, you know, like what we did for Adam Slack from the Struts is the British flag.
Yeah.
So it's a Union Jack and a sparkle,
Yeah.
you know, black and white. He was on the cruise I did too, and it just, from afar away, you just look and go like, what is that?
Yeah, what's that?
Stands out, you know, so. The Lightning, which is our hollow body, which of course we have our bolt F-holes, the lightning bolt guys there, which a lot of people are so used to the F-holes. I mean, I was a big hollow body guy.
Yeah.
Back in the days in the Jetboy, I was like super Malcolm Young. I played a Falcon, and it was all about just that big, clean,
Yeah.
fat guitar, you know. But I don't know, the lightning bolt is, you know, pretty cool feature, I think, so.
Is it completely hollow? It's got a center block.
No, these ones are constructed where it's actually, we CNC these with mahogany. So they basically, we route out, there's a block, a center block, and then the outer frame is a mahogany frame.
Okay.
And then the maple top and back.
So it's not a laminated guitar.
Well, the back and the top
Yeah.
do go on. They are
Okay.
laminated on the top
Yeah.
and the back, but as in just like a construction of like some of the old school ones. So you got a little more, you got a big solid piece of mahogany down the center, which to me, I got like a Baldwin era Gretsch, and they're heavy, and they got that center block, which really helps with the feedback if you're going with a gainy amp, you know. So this one as well. Usually we started these off with Filtertrons, but we do the, you know, the humbuckers, and we do the P90s as well. And this is just the basic 2-volume, 2-tone toggle. We'll do the ratio keystone tuners on this one with the plastic buttons. Again, 59 or 60s profile on this. And we are launching the new one. We've only done 2 so far with the single pickup.
Like a junior.
Like a junior version with a wraparound. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
You don't really see a lot of those.
No.
You know, I mean, they are out there, but they don't do a lot of the single pickup hollow bodies. So. One we were doing these on the double cuts, and when we were doing single cuts, which we don't do anymore, we were doing this flag design, which Billy Joe had one of these early on, and this is the first one that we did on the Revenge, and it looks pretty dynamite. Rock N Roll Relics, it seems like it's spread out to, like, you can either be a session guy, a touring guy, or a mega frontman rock star who's massive. It's just, it's all sorts. You don't have, it's just, it seems to be, it gravitates to people who are really, kind of grew up on the same stuff I did, you know, which is this stripped down rock and roll. I mean, we got some people who are like phenomenal guitar players to someone who's just a straightforward, great rhythm player, but a great songwriter. You know, they're playing them, which is pretty cool.
What are your plans for Rock N Roll Relics? If you look 5 years down the road?
I mean, the whole idea is to grow it. I'm all into making it bigger. I don't want to go where it's, I mean, you know, I'll just kind of let it guide itself. You know, it's kind of, that's how it's been going for us. So I got like 4 guys working for me now, and I love seeing that they're younger. I'd love to see all of this stuff to keep carrying on, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's just like with music, you know. There's other bands that come along and they are an offshoot of their favorite band, from the Stones to AC/DC to whatever it is, to carry the torch, you know, because these people, you know, we won't last forever doing this, so you want it to continue. So, and that's kind of my goal, is just to kind of make a mark with it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's already happening, you know, but there's really no, I don't really have a bullseye in front of me, you know. I'm kind of like, let's just kind of be in the moment. And of course, you got to plan some things ahead, you know, but it's all kind of been self-guided in ways, you know. You know, I can't believe it, actually. And most of the time I lock up the door to the shop, walking out going, how the hell did I do this? You know, it's like anything, like a band that becomes big and a household name. Yeah. They say the same thing. They're like, I'm just a fan that wanted to be like my heroes in a rock band, you know. And
Cool. Thank you very much, Billy.
yeah, thank you. We're excited to be in the store, bring some more stuff overseas there. I know Buckcherry will probably be rolling through close by where I can walk through that door where all you know, where your store is.